car was not started when you had it, what was your reaction when this thing first fired up?
I'm just really, really happy and excited after 1,400 hours to make it actually run.
9 months to get this car to run.
Yep.
And you do a lot of your own material.
Yeah, pretty much all of it.
Hi, I'm Lou with another episode of My Car Story. And today you're going to see, well, a few old used cars. With that being said, I'm here with Alan. Alan, what's your last name?
Travis, Travis.
And Alan and I will do probably a video on each of his cars, but why not start with, what's the first one we're doing today?
A 1913 Bugatti Grand Prix style car.
How many of these were probably built in 1913?
Less than 5. They were, the people, at least 3 of the people were the early aviation pioneers, the most famous ones of all. Pietro Bugatti didn't even sell it to them. They had to go to Pietro Bugatti's chateau every morning and take the car out to the airfield and drive it back at night. And after a month, if they were doing good with it, then they could buy the car and they could leave with the car. So he was very, very, he wanted to hold on to his cars and he wanted to make sure the right owners got them, just like today.
Just like today. So with that being said, let's go right to our featured attraction. Alan, stand right next to me for a second and we'll talk about this car. 1913. So the first question that comes into my mind is the lineage of this car. You've had this car for now about a year.
Yes.
And you don't really buy these cars. They're kind of given to you as almost you're the right person for the car. Am I correct on that?
Yes, there's money exchanged, of course, but it's not that you go to an auction and buy it and bid against other people. You find world-class cars, and world-class cars have had world-class caretakers, and they make sure the right person is the right person to own it for the next 20, 30, 40 years.
So with this car, just some of the lineage of this car, I mean, these are all, who are some of the people who have been part of this car?
Well, this was one of the very, very first 4 or 5 Bugattis made at Pietro Bugatti's chateau in Germany. The first owners, again, were aviation pioneers, very, very famous pioneers. And this was just before World War I, and this car, when we open the hood, is probably the only one in the world with Pietro Bugatti's signature on the actual engine. And this one is running, driving, and you're going to see it being started and tuned up in a few minutes. It was put away in 1924, 1925, was kept in 2 buildings in Sweden, and we got it out of the second building in October of last year. And then I put about 1,400 hours in the restoration and sorting of the car. The car is all original, or virtually all original, but restored. But everything is restored only as good as I can make it. Nothing is really replaced. So it's the same wheels, the same radiator, the same motor transmission frame, bodywork, all of that, and in lots of cases, even some of the same interior. We did some wood work that was new wood, but for the most part, it's virtually exactly the same experience and car that you would have had 104 years ago.
And just, I'm going to show you that. That's how it is correctly. Let's look at the back just so you can see that kind of that way. And then you can see it this way. What am I featuring right here?
You're featuring the transmission and the footboards. He made everything he made in the cars did multi-functions. So for example, the transmission stretches all the way across the frame. So it's a frame member as well as the floorboards as well as the transmission cover. Just like the race cars of the 40s and the 50s. He incorporated that into his cars. So instead of having wooden floors, which were more weight, and then structural steel and cast iron for the frame members, everything was extremely lightweight because it had multi functions.
Show me what that is.
You probably wonder why this car is blue and why virtually every Bugatti is blue. In 1913, Pietro Bugatti's wife decided that all colors shall be painted this color of this pack of cigarettes. So this is an original 1913 pack of cigarettes that Pietro Bugatti's wife used as the model for the color. So the pigment in this, the light blue and the dark blue just has more black in it, is the same color that the car is painted. And the car has no clear on it. It's got 27 coats of pigment, so it's 5 mils thick of just paint.
How did you find a 1913 pack of cigarettes? Did it come with a car?
No, I went to France on the web and I found a a cigarette collector, and I got the actual pack of cigarettes.
So how does this happen that you get, and I just want to briefly show people where we're at here. You know, this is a museum. How does this all kind of come together for you?
Well, in the 1980s, we did the Great American Race. We did that as an opportunist.
And you won it.
Oh, we won it. Yeah, we won. Even the years we didn't win, sometimes we won the most money. We were very successful for us. And that was a time where you could buy a high-end car for $100,000, $200,000. They weren't what they are today. And I learned the passion at that point. I got the magazines, the books. So for 40 years, I've been restoring and playing with 100 to 125-year-old cars and motorcycles. And I've kept doing that. And even if I don't do that race all the time, we're going to do it next year again, though. We find other uses and other tours. We take our cars and motorcycles around the world and do different events. In 3 weeks, we're going to do London to Brighton, which is the oldest car race in the world, and we're going to race our 1896, 1897 Didion Bouton trike, and the trike runs on nitromethane, and it goes 45 to 50 mile an hour, and I plan to win the London to Brighton race, and everything in the race is 1904 and earlier.
Wow.
And and the museum we got it from says it's terrifying, so that should be fun.
Let's keep looking at this car for a moment. It's terrifying. It should be fun. Now, I just want to feature all the wonderful, lots of little Bugatti symbols on here. And these are the taillights.
Those are the taillights. And this spring set is neat too because there's 17 springs in each side, and spring number 7 on the right side and spring number 7 on the left side both weigh within a half a gram of each other. They're absolutely tailored and matched sets, and they need no shocks because they have tremendous suspension and smooth suspension. This brass placard that you're showing now is Charles Girot. Charles Girot was the Barney Oldfield of Europe, and he was the sole importer of all the Bugatti cars, and he was one of the 3 owners of the original Type 22s, of which this car is. So that's his insignia. And the back is the gas tank, which is down low.
And that Bugatti emblem came with that too.
Yeah, the back, that's original. And the tank is down low, so it needs an air pump. So there's an air pump on the side. So when you start it, you pressurize the gas tank with this, and that's your fuel pump. And then now you've pressurized the gas tank, and now it'll flow uphill to the carburetor.
Let's show them the engine compartment.
Okay.
And we've got while we're here, show me the horn on this. And this was one of the first electric horns.
Yeah, this is one of the first electric horns and one of the last brass horns. So when I hit the button on it, that's a bulb horn with an electric compressor, all 1913. And then this is the 4-speed transmission and the brakes. The brakes are on the outside of the car, and the 4-speed. Got it. The brakes are on the outside of the car on all Bugattis, and all Bugattis are right-hand drive because if you can't put this in the center of the car and have room for 2 people in this small of a car. Okay. So it's a 4-speed transmission, and when you go into a corner, the handbrake is on a bronze trunnion, and it's got cables. So you pull this back first, and then that equalizes the pressure on both rear wheels. Okay. So no matter what the situation is for the tires, you have equal pressure on the braking.
Go ahead, pull that brake again. There's your braking.
And then once you have set the car either in a slide or in a straight turn, then you use the foot brake to go ahead and finish stopping. But you always set it with this first.
And I'm noticing that we've got wire wheels here. And as a comparison, how much does a car like this weigh?
This is 1,140 pounds, full race car. And there's other cars in the garage here that are of the same era, that are of the same size, that are all over 2,000 pounds. So this is half the weight of other cars in the same era and of the same competition cars.
Let's take a look under both sides of the hood.
Okay, this is the earliest signature Bugatti racing engine in the world on the road. And you're going to see this run in a few minutes.
So usually you don't have that signature.
No, you'll never see.
Show me your phone for a second where you don't have that. While you're doing that, I'm going to continue to. Here's your spark plugs. So this is what it usually looks
Here's a run-of-the-mill Bugatti motor.
like. I love that. Run-of-the-mill Bugatti.
Well,
Show the one with the French museum.
okay. And here shows a good example of the color of all the Bugattis. This is the French National Museum in France, in Milsheim, and that's there's 41 Bugatti Grand Prix cars there on that museum.
But they're missing one.
They're missing the oldest one. They have nothing before
Which is this
1920. You're right. They have
Missing this
none
one.
of the original ones. This is an original one.
So we'll show them and let them enjoy it with us.
Yeah.
Now tell me what's happening. We've got our clutch.
Yeah. That's a clutch, and we have 11 discs inside the clutch.
Okay.
This is an oil tank.
Oil tank.
And that's how we pre-lube the overhead cam, overhead valve box.
Okay.
This is how we adjust the valves. This is the intake manifold. This is the oil pump. So we have to prime this oil pump because it's 2 foot above the sump.
Okay.
And this has got about 100 pounds of pressure.
How does it pressurize? From here?
It pressurizes through this
Okay.
and through the crankshaft, but it draws from the sump down below.
Gotcha. And with these brass breathers?
These are breathers. Yes.
On both sides?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Let's take a look at the other side real quick, too.
Okay.
And the spark plugs sit there naturally.
Those are spare spark plugs because an overhead cam engine, you can load it up and cause a plug to go bad. So they always have the racing plugs.
And on the grill, I'm seeing some right here. What is that?
That's some oil. I had an oil leak on my last event that I did, so they shot some oil out through the front. But we drive the car. It's not a static display.
We drive the museum vehicle.
This is the water pump. The water pump is a work of art, all copper and bronze, just a work of art. And the run-of-the-mill Bugattis, it's all cast aluminum. This exhaust header is cast nickel steel with sectioned areas sectioned all the way to the very end. So it's got equal pressure on the exhaust, and that's only done in the first few cars.
The first, no, I was focused on. So this is
Cast nickel headers.
cast nickel headers.
Equal tube links. This is the tach drive to drive the tachometer. This is the vacuum tank for the gasoline in the back.
Let me just show that too, because there's a. I love all the little details. Alan, this may be the first time you get to see them up close on a full-size screen here.
I think so. This is the body was made in Le Mans, and that's the tag for the body, and then that's the tag for the chassis, which is Bugatti. The chassis were supplied by Bugatti, and then most of them.
How they numbered everything, right?
Yep, everything's numbered, including the engine is numbered. So all of the parts, for example, that's 1913 engine number 17. And if you look down here at the water pump, same thing, you see the same number down there. So every part on here has got the same number on it, 317.
Amazing. So show us how we fire it up.
Okay. Well, I can talk about lights a little bit.
Yeah.
The lights, this was the last year of the brass lights, 1913, and the first year of electric lamps. So this is a giant brass electric lamp. So that only in one car, only in 1 year. But the neat thing about these lights, one of the 3 owners of the Type 22s in 1913 was Louis Blériot. Louis Blériot made these lights for the Bugattis. Louis Blériot is famous because in 1909 he was the first person to fly across the English Channel in his Blériot aircraft. And Louis Blériot was actually the first person in the world to have a Type 22 Bugatti. And every morning he would go to Ytre Bugatti's chateau, get the car, drive it to the airfield, and then drive it back to the airfield that night and take his horse back home again. And then after a month he got to own the car.
Wow.
So these are famous lights.
Speaking of that, show us the only 1913 manual.
Here's the
car brochure, I guess.
This is the car brochure from 1913.
Did we
Showing.
miss a page?
Well, there's other pages.
Show me the very first page. Can we open it? We don't want to crack it or anything. Look at this. All right, let's. What one ought to own about the Bugatti car?
Has never been beaten.
Look at that. All right, let's go to the. We'll let people stop on that. Let me see this page. 1921 Bugatti models. Wow.
Now this is of the production ones. This is the pre-production car here.
Pre-production.
So this one is not the signature
Yeah,
stuff.
we can see that.
But it's the same stuff, except this is the. So that's the same clutch and.
Amazing. Pre-production.
Yep.
1921. Beautiful.
So the production or production.
And this is the only one of these known to exist.
Yeah, that describes the.
How
Well-
cool is that?
Well, they didn't make very many cars. We only make 10 cars. You don't need very many manuals.
Good point. All right, let's
Okay.
show us how to fire
What
it
it's
up.
on now.
Tell me what you have here, though, too. Here's your helmet.
Well, this is my windshield. This is original goggles, and these go over your glasses. And because the first people that had the cars were all aviators, this was the roof of the car, and this is the windshield of the car. And that was natural because they were aviators to begin with. So this car is 105 years old. It's never had a windshield, never had any doors or an electric start, so it doesn't still today. So this is what you wear. And then even at 65, 70 mile an hour, this is more than adequate. And you're driving a Bugatti, so it's okay.
Okay, all right. 65, 70 miles an hour in this car. Okay.
Okay, so today I've got a carburetor on that I'm going to tune it. So this is how you start when you put a new carburetor on something, an antique car. You use a roller starter.
Okay.
So when I'm all done tuning the carburetor, then I'll simply hand crank it. But right now I'll show you how to start it with the roller. So the first step you do, you pressurize the gas tank. So 4 or 5 different pushes.
Okay.
Okay, now that's enough fuel. Second thing you do, grab a hold of the primer for the oil.
I can smell the gas.
Yep. And you put oil in the cam box.
Got it. You tighten that down.
Yep. Then you retard the timing, and then you go ahead and choke it.
Okay.
Okay? I'm going to put it in neutral right now and turn the brakes off. I'm going to open up the hood.
It's beautiful, too, with that little brass piece. Go ahead, though.
Because you're going to see it start.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to get inside, and I'm going to hit this button, and it's going to spin the back tire.
And we could start it from the front.
We can start it from the front. When I'm done tuning this carburetor, then I'll be able to hand crank it. But right now, it's on this setup because I'm tuning
Yep.
it.
Okay. How to tune your 1913 Bugatti.
Turn the ignition switch on.
Okay, where was the ignition switch?
Right here. So that's the kill switch when you turn it in. When you turn it out, it's to run.
Okay.
Okay? So now I'm going to put it into third gear.
And by the way, the exhaust is right here where I'm at.
Yep.
Okay. What a treat. What do you feel like when you start this thing?
Pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. That is pretty cool.
So right now the car, once I get through tuning it, which will be 20 minutes worth of time, and to tune it, you let it get to operating temperature, and you adjust the low speed, the intermediate, and the high speed, and then you retard the timing when you're doing all those, and you go ahead and test it, then you reach it a click on each of those when you get all done, and then you know what your settings are for 1,500 feet, which is where we are today. So then I'll have a set of numbers, so anytime I show up for a race at 1,500 feet, I'll know what my numbers are. Then I'll take it to someplace at 7,000 feet, and I'll do the same procedure over again.
Alan, just a quick question. How many cars do you have? A rough estimate.
Well, 16 or 17 105, 110-year-old cars, 120-year-old cars.
Say that one more time.
16 or 17 105 to 110-year-old cars, race cars.
What got you started in this era?
I love the original cars, because the persons that made the cars were the principals, and they were all deciding what to do. They're not the same. Everything today is the same. Everything I have is completely different. You know, this was made by the most famous automotive historian, engineer, and artist in the world, and still today the most famous. Bugatti's always been the most expensive car in the world, the most hard to get, the fastest car. It just, whether you got one that's 105 years ago or got one today, it's the same thing.
What was your reaction when they said, you know, we feel you should be the caretaker?
Well, then I started selling all my neighbors' houses, and I was happy. I was happy to be able to get it.
When it came to you, what was your reaction?
Well, it hadn't been driven since 1925, so there's a lot of intrepidation there too. When now it's in your lap. You've got to make something run. One of the most famous cars in the world. You've got to take it apart to nothing and put it together again and make it actually run like it did. It's now in your lap. You're at the starting line of a ski jump, and you've never done a ski jump before, and and you're at the top of the ski run, and you've got to land on your feet.
Well, first of all, congratulations. You've clearly made it run, as we can see. You've done a great job with this car. Everybody who's entrusted you with it is excited to see it run like we just saw it right here. I'm tickled to death to be hanging with you to see this car. And this car is going on the road.
Right. We've got a 300-mile tour with it next weekend.
So people will be able to see it, but it's another opportunity. Is there anything else I need to know about the car?
Not for sale.
Excellent. Alan, what a treat. Wonderful car. Thanks for being on My Car Story.
Thank you very much. Getting it ready for first.
Here's our RPMs. We're rolling. Now, clearly we're going to have some wind noise because we have now a windshield. Alan, we're not going to be doing 60 on this today, are we?
Nope.
All right, guys. Oh, it's wonderfully comfortable.
Yeah, it is. That's more than enough room, more room than you would think it would have.
Yeah. This car's very light. How much weight?
1,140 pounds.
You're going to hear wind noise in this one. one.
Yes,
This one's still out there with us.
yes, we have it.
Here in the States. How you receive a car like this, share a little of that. It's not really a financial thing, it's more of a caretaker thing.
Right. The owners hadn't sold the car for 90 years and had stored it for literally 90 years. So when it finally came time to sell, they interviewed me, and we, over a course of a month's time, figured out what the price was going to be, and that I would be the right person to buy it, to restore it, to make it run again. The decision was made. I was able to buy it. I sold all our neighbors' houses, and I got the unrestored car.
Such smooth roads, right? I mean, it's actually probably a gift for this car.
Yeah.
Oh, nicely though.
Yeah, and we're just going really slow. We're just idling around. Just idling. Always fun being with you. Thanks for being on My Car Story. Thank you very much.